Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome everyone. It's great to have you here. Before we start with the webinar, let me introduce you to Product Focus. We're the leading product management training organization in Europe, and we've been operating for over 18 years. We create and deliver world-class training for product professionals, and all our training is delivered live with both online and face-to-face options. With 5 excellent certified training programs and many more workshops at essential, advanced and leader level, catering for product professionals at all stages of their career, your career. But don't just take our word for it, check out our great reviews on Trustpilot. As well as delivering training courses, we also work with product teams, product leaders and business leaders to hone their skills and refine and embed their business strategies. We help businesses deliver better products faster. And now I'd like to hand over to Louise, who's leading today's webinar.
Hello all, I'm your host for today. My name's Louise May and I'm the Director of Product Management here at Product Focus. I'm a product management and a learning and development specialist, so I write courses and workshops that support product managers throughout their careers. I enjoy training, developing and building high-performing teams. And my absolute favourite thing is to watch people grow into confident, effective product managers. I also like to work with product leaders to create the right environment for their teams to flourish. I'm about to get creative again and write our next advanced practitioner course. I'm in the middle of doing some market research to find out which course I should write next. So feel free to message me here in the chat or on LinkedIn with ideas on what new courses you or your team would benefit from. Here's a quick screen tutorial. If you need a better view of the slides during the webinar, you can maximize the slide window and hide the question panel. And if you want a copy of the slides, you can download them through the handouts option in your Livestorm panel. I'll be taking questions at the end, but feel free to drop them in the Q&A box as we go. I'll make sure we cover as many as possible. We'll also send you a link to the webinar. Let's get into it then. I love a good framework, and today we're going to talk about one of my favourites, the North Star framework. Over my 20 or so years in product management consultancy, I've worked with startups, scale-ups, mid-size, multinationals, and I've had the privilege to work with some amazing product teams with brilliant people. But time and again, I've seen good teams underperform and really struggle to reach their potential. When a product team isn't working at its best, it's rarely because of lack of talent or lack of effort. Usually there's a much more fundamental reason, and often it's because the organisation design isn't quite right, which means team structures, communication methods, ways of working are conspiring against effective cross-functional teamwork. The knock-on effects of a slightly misaligned organisation can be really significant to the product team. And one common problem is that different teams have slightly different targets and therefore they're pulling in different directions. There's no unifying goal. There's no shared sense of what winning looks like. Essentially, the organisation feels unstructured and quite chaotic. And the people that feel the impact of this the most are the product people, because their products are directly affected by any misalignment. And they're the people who are trying to navigate broken processes and inter-team differences. While today's focus is on the North Star framework, the principles we'll discuss do link directly to building strong, aligned, successful product organisations. Let's have a closer look at some of these chaos creators that I just mentioned. The most common one, and ironically, is probably the one that should be the easiest to fix, is misaligned targets across teams. Chaos is when marketing is chasing engagement, any engagement from anybody, anywhere. Sales is chasing this quarter's numbers. Any product at any price. Product is pushing to get a new feature out of the door. Not necessarily the feature that was on the roadmap, one that might have just been slipped in there because someone shouted loudly enough. And ops, They just want an automated onboarding system to improve customer implementation experiences. Surely that's not too much to ask, they say. And customer success, desperately trying to keep customers happy and manage expectations, probably with an unclear strategy and a changeable roadmap. Of course, this is all done with the best of intentions, but without a shared definition of success, chaos is inevitable. Chaos is when one team celebrates a big win, while another says, well, that's great, but it doesn't really help us hit our numbers. Chaos is duplication of effort, misaligned priorities. Chaos is spending months working hard on something, and then suddenly the business pivots. That's the commercial cost of chaos. But chaos also causes unnecessary conflict between teams and individuals. It's just exhausting. Good people step back and they check out mentally in order to preserve their sanity. Other good people burn out and leave the business. And that's the human cost of chaos. As a young product manager, I got quite frustrated. I could see what was happening, but I had no power or control and very little influence to change anything. I worked harder. I got angry. I was exhausted. I tried harder, but nothing changed. As I moved up the ladder of seniority, I thought I'd have a better chance of making a difference and getting everyone aligned. With more influence, I did achieve more. Every step forward was hard work. The silos persisted. And that's because when individuals are working against embedded organization structures and fighting against misaligned processes, it is just a constant struggle. Something more fundamental needed to change. But then I became a product management consultant. So I thought, right, here's my chance. Now I can make a difference to organizations. And to a certain extent, I did. Because when an organization is paying consultancy rates to an external expert, they're more likely to listen and they implement the changes suggested. So several years ago, whilst working on a particularly difficult assignment, I needed something. So I went looking for something that could help us create better ways of working, but from the bottom up and from the inside out. And I found the North Star framework. The implementation of the framework broke down the silos gently by bringing people together to co-create a shared vision, shared targets, and a shared workload. I was quite surprised by the extent of the change, but what really surprised me was the speed of the change. I knew from experience that cross-functional product teams are more effective than siloed departments. But this was the first tool or framework that I'd used that visibly united teams across departmental boundaries. And the teams that I was working with at the time had pretty much been at war with each other before they brought me in as a consultant. So let's say the opposite of chaos is order, and order brings clarity. And the North Star framework, it's now my go-to tool for cutting through chaos to create clarity and align teams. It's a structured way of turning ambition into targets and then taking those targets and turning those into results. So let's explore what it is and why it works. And I'm going to take you on a journey from chaos to clarity, showing you how you can use the North Star framework to create focus and momentum in your own organization. We looked at chaos creators earlier, so let's explore clarity enablers now. Clarity happens when everyone in the organization knows exactly what matters the most, what's important. Clarity comes when everyone can discuss and negotiate and agree a shared target. And clarity is reinforced when everyone can see how their work contributes towards it. Clarity facilitates unity, and unity is about working together to create a clear, shared focus that acts as a decision-making compass. The North Star has many qualities. The North Star is gentle and persuasive. And if you're a very frustrated product manager who isn't making the progress that you need, sometimes gentleness and persuasion go out of the window a little bit, and the North Star helps you regain this. It is something that is discussed, it's negotiated, it's refined, it's polished, and most importantly, it belongs to everybody because everybody's worked together to create it. It doesn't try and bash down silos between departments. It doesn't try and erase personal agendas. It doesn't position one team as more important than another. It gently brings people together and it creates that simple shared vision that invites cooperation and it invites cross-functional teamwork. Whoops, that was a bit too, I didn't mean to go on to that one. Let me go back one. So let's explore what it is, why it works in the next few slides when I get there. This is the problem, isn't it? Live recordings never go to plan. You can rehearse them 100 times, something's always going to go wrong. However, let's get back to the North Star. It distills your product strategy into one single metric that represents the value that you bring to customers and that everyone can influence. Right, this is now sounding a bit too good to be true, right? Let's find out how to do it. Here it is. The concept itself has been around for quite a while, and I do wish that I'd found it sooner than I did. Sean Ellis defined the North Star metric, also called the NSM, in about 2010. And then in 2021, John Cutler and his team Amplitude extended it into a full product growth framework. And this is the framework that we use on our Driving Product Growth course. This is the underlying theme that runs through the 2-day course that we run. It's made up of 3 chunky components. There's the North Star metric itself, then there's the shared KPIs, and then finally there's the work that each team needs to do feed into those KPIs. And the beauty of it is that it allows a complex situation to be broken down into much simpler parts that everyone in the organisation can understand, embrace, and then hopefully contribute to. It's quite a big investment in time, and it's certainly an investment in commitment from all the cross-functional teams, but importantly, the leaders of those teams need to be invested and committed as well. Everyone works together to define and agree every element of the framework, but it is definitely time worth spending. The strength of the final framework is greater because cross-functional teams have come together to discuss, negotiate, and agree. It's also a lead indicator. So before we continue, let's have a quick refresher on the definitions of lead and lag indicators so that we're all on the same page. A lead indicator is an early measure that predicts future outcomes. It lets you know if you're on the right track to achieving your objectives. Whereas a lag indicator reports on the past. It's already happened. You can't change the outcome. Now, I've got some clever slide builds coming up, which I'm now starting to regret, actually, because my mouse is all over the place. But let's go with that one. So we'll start with predictive versus retrospective. So a lead indicator is predictive, which means it points to a future trend or outcome, whereas a lag indicator is retrospective. It looks back to what's already happened. A lead indicator is actionable. So if your lead indicator tells you that you're going to miss your target, you've still got time to analyze what you're doing wrong and then take action. Whereas the lag indicator tells you a result, good or bad. A lead indicator is an early warning. You have time to make changes and get back on track. A lag indicator is absolute. It's a fixed moment in time that can't be changed. So let's have a couple of examples. An example of a lead indicator is measuring near misses on a dangerous stretch of road. If there are almost lots of accidents, you can take action. You can put traffic safety measures in place. You can make it safer to drive or ride or walk on that stretch of road. A lag indicator would be to measure the number of accidents or even fatalities. And there's no amount of traffic safety measures will undo those accidents or bring those victims back. So lead indicators are powerful because they're predictive, actionable and timely. They give you early warning and they allow you to steer before it's too late. I can't talk about the North Star framework without mentioning the game, but I don't want to overcomplicate the webinar because I promise you clarity at the end. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we do need to talk about it. Part of finding the North Star is to identify the game we're playing with our product, and there's 3 games to choose from. The game helps us define the value exchange between us and our customer. The attention game is where our user gets absorbed in the product, and the more time they spend using it, the more satisfaction they get from it. For example, a video game or a streaming service, the longer they play or watch, the more value they get from it. The transaction game is where our user wants to purchase the right product for their needs, then complete the transaction easily, track production and delivery. So, for example, Amazon or a Tesco food shop, it's a quick, easy purchase is the value that they gain. And finally, the productivity game is where our user chooses our product because they've got a job to do. So, for example, accountancy software or a hammer. The product helps them do a job quicker, more easily, and to a better standard. That's the value exchange that we need to keep in mind when we're choosing our North Star. Back to our North Star then. The North Star is a lead indicator. It's called the North Star because, like the real one, it doesn't change direction on a whim. It's stable enough to guide you over time, and it's sensitive enough to bring you back on track if you wander off. It's a single measure that reflects a product's core value to its customers. It's powerful because it's not just a random KPI. It's got 3 essential qualities. It reflects the core value your product brings to your customer. It's within your sphere of influence. You can actually move it through product, marketing, sales, and customer success activities. It's a leading indicator of revenue. When it moves, the business moves. So think of it as the core of your product success, the one number everyone needs to be obsessed with. The example we've got here is Spotify. Why is time spent listening such a good lead indicator? It's because listening to interesting things, music or podcasts or books, is the value that users derive from Spotify. So Spotify is playing the attention game, and the North Star is also a great indicator for retention, churn, and growth. The North Star metric should be short and memorable, so it often needs a more detailed definition to support it. In this case, for Spotify, we need to understand the tipping points of perceived customer value. So at what point do customers see value, and at what point do customers stop seeing value? And this tighter definition, it comes from lots of very, very careful customer research, and it needs to be validated regularly. So while the North Star shouldn't change, this definition may need refining over time because customer habits and expectations will change. In this example, a customer who listens for more than 1 hour a day and does this at least 5 days a week and listens to at least 2 different types of content would be seen as a safe customer. It shows that they're playing the attention game and they're engaged and they're listening. So we can use the North Star metric as a lead indicator for retention, churn, and growth. As a retention indicator, more time spent listening means that the users are making the most of the product and they're getting value from the experience, but also value for money for their subscription fees. If they get lots of value daily, then they'll continue their subscription. So time spent listening is a good indicator of retention. As a churn indicator, if they're not listening often enough, they may question the value and they may decide to lapse. So time spent listening, good indicator of churn. A churn lead indicator then gives you time because you can design and implement retention activities to save the customers who you've identified are at risk. Their volume may drop off, the number of times they listen may drop off. the range of content that they're listening to may drop off. At that point, you can step in and start to encourage them to listen more often. As a growth indicator, this mouse is not my friend today. Let's get back. As a growth indicator, customers who get value will recommend your product to others and they'll become advocates. So they're helping to drive acquisition. New customers get added to the time spent listening metric, which then is a good indicator of growth and future revenue. Cross-functional KPIs. We said earlier that a significant cause of chaos in an organisation is conflicting objectives between teams. It makes sense then that a significant driver of effective cross-functional teamwork are shared goals. This is so obvious, it's so logical, and yet you just wouldn't believe how many organisations just don't have shared goals between teams. So this stage in the process involves setting shared goals or shared KPIs. They're not isolated measures. Every one of these KPIs is connected to meeting the North Star target. And that's what creates alignment. So each team has got their own levers to pull and they're all pulling in the same direction. Categorizing them into breadth, depth, frequency, and performance brings more clarity and ensures that you get lots of shared KPIs focusing on different areas of product success. Keeping with the Spotify example, I've listed some possible shared KPIs in each area. Now, in reality, there will be far more than this, but I've just put 2 down for each one. So in terms of breadth, the number of subscribers is significant because the number of subscriptions drives revenue. The number of searches done by subscribers is also important because this figure indicates engagement. In terms of depth, the range of content consumed by users shows that they see value in the range of content offered. And the volume consumed is also an indicator of value. The more they listen, the more value they get from it. And then frequency. We would want to see users logging in more than once a day. Another indication of value. They might listen to current affairs on their way to work. They might listen to music at lunchtime, listen to a podcast on the way home, and maybe listen to a relaxing sleep stories at bedtime. Also, the duration of each session is an indicator of engagement and attention. And finally, the performance of the product. And let's go back again. And finally, the performance of the product is also important. It might be the quality of sound or content, or it might be reliability. So you can see these are all customer value drivers as part of the attention game, and they're all relevant to the sales team, to the marketing team, to the product team, and to the customer success teams. If the KPIs are the what, then this next component is the how. This is where teams identify the specific initiatives or the work that will drive their North Star KPIs and in turn the North Star. And the beauty of this approach is it makes vision actionable and it brings the strategy to life. This is where everybody is committing to the work that they're going to do to make this happen. So each team looks at those shared KPIs and says, what do we need to do to achieve those KPIs? So each team builds a comprehensive action plan that helps achieve the KPIs. Keeping the Spotify example going, if you were the Spotify product team, here's some ideas as to what your roadmap might look like. To support the breadth of KPI, increasing the number of subscribers, you might further improve the onboarding process because frictionless onboarding means less drop-off and also better scalability and also, really importantly, improved time to value for customers. Or you might bring more creativity into your pricing strategy, more flexibility to appeal to different segments, which will have a positive impact on long-term recurring revenue. To support the depth KPI of increasing the range of content consumed, you might improve or automate the process of integrating new content providers. To drive the frequency metric, the number of sessions per day, you might build capability for in-app promotion of curated content. And finally, To improve the performance, you might do some competitor analysis that would help you prioritize any quality improvements. So when each team creates their own backlog of work, when that work focuses on achieving the shared KPIs, friction is reduced. Cross-functional communication improves, and life is just a lot easier for everybody. This approach also makes prioritization easier. I do not know what's going on with my mouse today. I do apologize. Let's get back to my script. This approach makes prioritization much easier because when a new idea comes in, you can ask, is this going to move our North Star metric? If yes, great, let's do it. If no, well, it probably shouldn't be a priority right now. So why do I like it so much? When you bring all of this together and when you connect the dots, then the magic happens. The North Star metric, the cross-functional KPIs, the work, you create a harmonious and self-reinforcing system, which is great. Now the processes are working with you and not against you. All the teams understand the strategy and they see how their work contributes on a daily basis, which means day-to-day decisions without top-down direction are better. It brings clarity, harmony, teamwork, and ultimately success, which for me also means sanity and the ability to sleep at night. And the absolute winner in all of this is the customer, because customer value is at the very heart of the framework. So that's the North Star framework, from chaos to clarity. It's simple in concept, but very powerful in practice. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. We would love to help you. And at Product Focus, we help organizations build the skills and the frameworks to create strong, resilient product teams. And if you'd like to go deeper, we run public and private training that covers frameworks like this, along with the skills and the tools product managers need to deliver real impact. Now on to the Q&A. I'm going to hand back to Phil at this point because Phil's been having a look at all the questions that you've been posting. So Phil, hit me with the questions.
Well, some great questions, so thank you very much for those. The first one I'd like to ask is coming from Paolo from Madrid. I would love to try this with my product. How do I start?
Let's go back in. I've got some kind of automated thing going on here because I'm going to sit here like that and show you that I'm not touching my mouse. It has a life of its own. Paolo, thanks for that. That's a really good question. I said in the beginning that there's a lot in this and it takes quite a big commitment from you as the product manager because you'll be the one pulling this together, but it also takes a lot of commitment from sales, marketing, customer service, and the leaders of those teams, because this is about creating a shared vision and everyone working together to do that. So the best way, I say the best way, probably the only way to do this is to bring people together in workshops. In our lovely online world, we can do that virtually. We can have virtual workshops as well. I'm still quite old-fashioned. I still like getting people together in a room if you can to do it. And what we have got, and in fact, I can send you this afterwards. If any of you want this, drop your email address in the chat. Nobody else can see your chat. If you drop it in, we can see it and nobody else. If you want a copy of this, let us know, because I've got a set of slides. They're basically a set of workshop slides that take you through every step of the way. There's notes in there as well, so you can see what you need to do at each stage. And I've also got a set of flip charts, so you can either recreate the flip charts or you can have them printed. We always have them printed and up in the room for people to work from. And that takes that whole workshop. I would say for the first one, if you can get all of the different teams together, so if you've got a couple of people from product marketing, a couple of people from product team, maybe get one of your developers involved as well, or product owner involved, a couple of people from the sales team, a couple of people from customer success, they all work in groups together. So effectively you've got 4 teams of people, and I would allow a full day workshop for that to really work through it. And in a full day's workshop, you would get a draft of most things, but not the finished version. It would still then take work from each team to go through it, refine what they're doing, and then probably come back together again in a meeting. It doesn't have to be as formal as a workshop then. Come back together in a meeting or a series of meetings to feedback what everybody has got, and then agree on the North Star, agree on the definition, agree on the KPIs, and agree that each team is going to be taking their workload forward, then maybe put some time scales in place as well. So it is a really big commitment. So let me know and I'll drop you the slides in afterwards. I'll email you the slides. Thanks for that, Paolo. And Phil, you're on mute. We've got proper gremlins in here today.
Proper skilled people here. So we've got a few questions which are actually on a very similar theme. It is about, can you have multiple North Stars within the same company?
You're picking difficult questions for me today, you lot. Yes, you can, because the original North Star and the concept of it was more for companies like Spotify, where Spotify it's the company, it's the brand, and it's the product. Another example we use is Airbnb. Again, Airbnb, it's the product, it's the brand, it's the company. And in those situations, you would only have one North Star that the entire organization would get behind. In reality, most of us work in in companies that have multiple product lines, multiple business units. So you would have to have a look and say what's sensible, at what level do you want to have your North Star. If you've got very, very, very similar products that make up a proposition, so you might have 10 different products that make up an overall pick and mix proposition that you sell to customers, you might get away with a single overall proposition North Star. You might need to drill down a little bit further and have maybe one for each product. That really depends on the circumstances. The higher level, the better. But no, you generally can't get away with just having a single North Star, which goes against the concept a little bit from the original concept when it was first written. But reality says differently.
Thanks, Louise. Right, quick one here from Trace. I hope I've pronounced that right. What are the pros and cons of the North Star metrics versus OKRs?
That's a good question. I'm going to reframe that question a little bit. I wouldn't say pros and cons, because you've got pros and cons for each, but if you want to merge them together, you can use them alongside each other. So if you work for an organization that already has OKRs in place, it depends how you've implemented them. The original thinking behind OKRs that they would be very much at corporate level. So you'd have corporate OKRs, and then each quarter you would take one objective and key results, and you would say, right, for this quarter, this is now going to be our focus. The whole organization, or let's say business unit might be more realistic, the whole business unit is going to get behind this OKR this quarter. And that means that everyone gathers momentum, there's a really serious focus, and you start to show progress in a quarter. Hopefully that momentum should continue, but then for the next quarter, another OKRs or another objective is chosen, and then everybody gets behind that objective and starts to gather momentum on that objective. So OKRs are designed to be changeable, and if an organization does do it, generally they'll do it on a per quarter basis. Whereas the North Star is not changeable. That's your one fixed long-term view of what you're trying to achieve. But the two can work really well together, because let's say on an organizational level, this quarter's OKR might be around customer retention. Now, as part of your North Star, you will already have some KPIs in there around retention, and each department, marketing, sales, product, customer success, will have their own activities that will be feeding into that retention KPI. So if that's this quarter's corporate focus, then you can also make that your quarterly focus. So it doesn't actually change the North Star, but it just means that you have an increased push on the activities that feed into the retention KPIs that feed into the North Star. So you can use them very comfortably alongside each other.
Thanks, Louise. Just a quick point out. The people who are watching, thank you very much. I know you don't have access to chat, so if you want to drop your emails into the questions, we can capture them there. So thank you for pointing that out. A couple of people have asked, what's the best way to start with this? I know we've talked about here's some information that we can send through, and people, there's lots of you sending your emails through, so we'll sort that out. But is there a sort of an easy starting point, or where would you start? And that's probably from a more of a culture management point of view.
Yes. Now, the organisations where this has the most impact are the organisations where maybe culturally there might be a little bit of resistance to kicking this off. So definitely liaising with the leaders in the different areas of the business is quite important. So don't just go and run a North Star workshop cold and expect everybody to turn up energized, motivated, and ready to go for it. It takes quite a bit of socializing. So it would be about socializing the concept of a North Star metric, about introducing the benefits of a North Star metric, starting to get people on side. So get the product leader on side, product marketing leader on side. So one by one, pick them off, get them on board, sell the benefits of the North Star metric or the North Star framework. Make sure that they fully understand what it is, why you're suggesting it. And then once you feel that everybody's on board, then you can start to talk about implementing and again consult how best. You can ask them how best do they think we could implement this. Maybe send them some reading. So Amplitude is the consultancy that originally brought the whole North Star framework together. So maybe send them a blog or a document from them. Maybe pull something together yourself. If you do email me with the North Star and I'll send you the North Star slides, then you can pull some information out of there. So gratuitously reuse anything that you can get your hands on. And once it's sufficiently socialized, then at that point you can suggest a North Star workshop, pull everybody together. Now you can either do that yourself, if you're happy to do that. You could engage us to do it. Bit of selling going on here now. We're happy to come and do a one-day workshop with you, so we can do some of the prerequisite consultancy with the leadership team to sell the concept in, and we can come and run the workshop for you, and then you can do all the follow-up activities, or you can do that yourself. We've got a 2-day product growth course. It's an advanced practitioner course, so you can come on that one, and that would introduce you to it all as well. So there's different ways, but the most important thing is you've got 4 leaders, so marketing, sales, customer success, and product, that all need to be bought in and on board to this before you start kicking any serious activity off. And I'm a really, really impatient person. I'm not very good at this. But the more time you spend warming people up and getting them on board, the more successful that initial workshop will be, and then the better or easier it'll be to implement the process afterwards.
Thanks, Louise. Another question here from Sasha in Birmingham. How often would the North Star framework change, or the North Star change?
Yeah, so the North Star itself shouldn't really change unless there's a massive change in strategy for the product itself and a huge pivot. The North Star should be so strong and such a good lead indicator that should persist for a very long time. What will need to be reviewed more often is that tighter definition of the North Star. So the definition that we had for Spotify is that you would expect customers to be engaging with Spotify for a minimum number of hours per day, a minimum number of days per week, etc. Now, as you keep your eye on the market and you look at what else is out there in the market, what's going on in the world, what are your competitors doing, then though that tighter definition of what you're looking for may need to be refined. but the North Star itself should persist for a long time, if not indefinitely.
Thank you. Lots of you, thank you very much, asking for the workshop slides, so we'll make sure we get those off to you.
Oh, good.
Let me just have a quick scan.
Yeah. Should we have? I've got my eye on the time here. Should we have one more question, Phil?
Yeah, I'm just scanning through because we've right, here's one then. As a product manager who manages a range of different aspects of our business, digital, offline, third party for sales and originations, would you suggest different North Stars for different business objectives to then filter into a larger combined roadmap? There you go, there's your killer.
Blimey, that is a killer. It's a nice one to end on. No, I wouldn't, because this will take some work. It'll take quite a bit of unpicking, and you won't get to the answer necessarily in a single workshop. If you've got something so complex, but you will find a North Star that is your lead indicator that influences all of those different elements. And when you're in a complex environment, maybe in a B2B environment with different routes to market, you mentioned channel selling, different channels to market, third party providers, supporters, etc., then it does start to become complicated. But you will find a single lead indicator that says if all of these things are working nicely, this is the indicator that tells us early on that everything's in place and that we can predict either a good outcome for all of these areas, or we can predict a poor outcome, in which case we've got levers to pull that we can go back and say, right, this particular channel is not working. So the North Star would persist, would be the same one, but you would have very tight KPIs in each of the different areas that feed into that North Star, so that you're monitoring the North Star from lots of different angles. I think I've answered your question. I hope I have.
Yep.
Yep. I hope I have. You've got my email address. If I haven't, feel free to message me.
I think that's in terms of the different questions, and I think that about captures them actually, Louise. So there's been lots of questions, a lot of them very similar. So hopefully I've, for the people who've asked the questions, I've managed to sort of like combine those together to get the answers that you're looking for. If not, then please do get in touch and we will come back to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for helping out. And thanks to everyone for joining us today. I will see you next month for next month's webinar, which I also have the pleasure of hosting. So hopefully see you then. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.